These are like my favorite ever boots. And they're Christian Louboutin, but you wouldn't know anymore because, dude, the red is gone. And they're python skin. And they're just they have a little zip at the back. They're the most comfortable boots I have. And they're just kind of they really say me. And they're a little bit rock and roll, a little bit beat up, still glamorous, you know. They've lived and I've lived and I've walked 1,000,000 miles in these shoes. I've done everything in these shoes that you can think of, you know, from having sex to throwing up to like, you name it. So I love them. They're my absolute favorite boots. One day we were in Paris on a family trip and we went to Gladys Market, which is a flea market. And, you know, we're just poking around and all of a sudden I saw this and I absolutely loved it. I knew what it was and I freaked out. And it was 400 euros at the time. And Marvin said, that's my stepfather, oh, let me buy it for you, you know. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, I'm gonna buy it for you. So he bought me it and I love it. It's like one of my favorite pieces of jewelry ever. But at one point I thought, oh, I wonder if they have any more. Are you okay? Airplane. Come on, darling. Quickly. Yeah, come on. It's gone now. I should come back. Right, so Marvin bought me this. It was 400 euros. It was vintage. And I went to Hermes to see if they had one or if I could buy another one. And they were like, oh, madam, it's £1,000 to order. And that was like years ago. So God only knows. It's ostrich and gold cuff. So I consider it you know, it was given to me by Marvin, so it's super special. But it's also rare. You know. Ding. I put that on. You know, my mother had been basically a single mom. And we had been a unit, she and I. And although she, you know, was a working mother and worked all the time, we were still very close. My biological father, who I loved, was very absent. You know, I'd see him on the weekends sometimes, and, you know, he did his best. We're not going to get down on him. But anyway, but eventually my biological father and I had a just really damaged relationship. And there was a catastrophic event, and which we read about, and then we were estranged. I was actually disowned, which was harsh. So Marvin, in the beginning, when he met my mom, I was about 6, and I resented him for coming in there, and I felt this love for my real father, and I didn't want him to take his place, and I didn't want him to take my mom away from me, and it upset the whole apple cart. And like I was saying with the dogs, our family pack, which was just me and my mom then, really was upset. And we moved from Los Angeles, where I'd grown up, where everything I knew was, to Chicago, which I didn't like at all at the time. So I resented Marvin, and I gave him hell for it. And he would say, I love you. And I go, but I hate you. You know, I was just diabolical. We had to go to shrinks, you know, the whole lot. So eventually, though, when the awful thing happened with my father, which was, you know, in teenage years, Marvin was there. And it turned out that actually Marvin had been looking after me all along, you know, paying for my education, supporting, you know, he was always there. He was always had my best interests at heart. And he became a rock for me. And I realized this guy isn't going anywhere. He's not going to turn on me. He's not going to try and hurt me. He is what he's, you know, he's smart. And he was just amazing man. And I just grew to love him very much. At the age of, I don't know, I was about 48. And he said, you know, I love you so much, as if you're... It's crazy because, you know, for someone to say to you that they love you so much and they want to adopt you as an adult, you can't even imagine the feeling of that after all the stuff I'd been through. So it was, you know, incredibly emotional, and he did it. They jumped through hoops to do it. To adopt a 50-year-old woman whose biological father is still alive is pretty hard. They had to go through lots of lawyers and look at precedences, and I had to fly to America, go in front of a judge, the whole thing. But yeah, I'm adopted. The book opens with my grandmother and me driving through Disneyland. Kind of a scary story. And my grandmother was very important to me. She was my father's mother. And there's a whole chapter about them called Beverly Hills Grandparents. And she was really feisty and fantastic. And I was very close to her because I spent a lot of time with her since my mother was working all the time, and my father would drop me off at my grandparents on the weekends when he didn't want to deal with me. And my grandmother and I were very close, and she would say to me, "Dolly, I'm more like your mother than your mother." You know, we were so close. So the other thing is she used to say this saying to me, whenever I get upset, she'd go, "This too shall pass. Dolly, this too shall pass." So I always remembered that. And then, like 2 years ago, one day, there was something going on in my life, and I heard her voice as clear as anything in my head going, "This too shall pass." And I went and I got it tattooed on my arm. Yeah, I got my grandma inked. Yeah. Anyway, before she died, she knew she was going to die. She took her own life. She was a strong woman. She had gone blind from macular degeneration. My grandfather had died of a stroke. She was alone. She was in her 80s. And she said, she took me one day and sat me down and she said, "I don't want to live anymore. I've had enough. My quality of life isn't good. I'm going to die." And I said, "Well, I don't want you to die, but I respect your decision. You know, you're an adult. You can choose what you want to do. And if that's your choice, then I support you." She goes, "Before I die, I'd like to give you a few things." Open up the safe. And this is what she took out and gave me, amongst other things. What does it say? The 14th carats Beverly Hills. So this is a solid gold, pearl, and sapphire choker. So it's probably the most precious thing I have in every way. Super cool. She also gave me a diamond necklace that was from the 80s, and it was hideous. And I said to her, "Grandma, please can I get those diamonds prized out and make a ring with it? Because I really wanted a diamond ring." And she said, "No, you can't. Uncle Jack gave me that necklace. You can't do that." But then after she died, I was like, "I guess I'm going to do this now." Then I had the diamonds prized out and made into a bangle so that I could wear it. So she's with me and she's laughing up there now and she says, "That's fine. I don't care. Who cares? You know, just be happy," which I am. This Gretech, it's called a Gretech Corvette. It's from the 1960s. All my guitars have names. This one is called God. God is in the house. So this one is a super rare guitar. It was given to me by a guitarist called Eric Ambel, who was in a band called Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. And when I went to Bennington and I formed my first band, we used to go to New York on the weekends. And one weekend I met this guy, Eric Ambel, and we had a bit of a fling. And eventually, when I was going off to do my band, or maybe it was just when I was going, after I'd met Mark Smith, he gave me this guitar and said, "Take it with you. It's so great. Let it begin your career." So this was the only possession other than a suitcase of clothes that I brought to Manchester on the day I moved here in 1983. So there was one particular incident in the book which was extremely traumatic. And I had buried it so far I forgot it happened. And then when I had to write about this, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe, the whole thing came flooding back. So yeah, it was super painful. And it was all weird because I had to then write, I was writing, because the book is written with complete truth, right? My criteria was utterly truthful and with love. So none of it is angry, none of it is vengeful. This is a story that I hope it will help other people get through hardships in their life as well. Like looking at the way I did it, I don't know if it will, but I think it will resonate with people for whatever reason. Anyway, I had to go and tell my husband about this terrible thing that happened, which I'd never confessed to, or my parents, and it was upsetting. But what then happened was the terrible incidents come up from the bottom of the soul or wherever they're lying, and you're lying in their subconscious, and they come up, and you look at them and you have to acknowledge them, make peace with them, and once you've done that, they disintegrate and evaporate and they move and you've healed them. So when people say writing is cathartic, it truly, truly is for those incidents. I mean, I didn't really want to give that away, but yeah, I was raped and it was really unpleasant. And I buried it. I had two choices. I knew the person that did it. It wasn't exactly date rape, but you can see the entire circumstances when you read it. But I had two choices. So when I managed to crawl home after the incident to my parents' house in Chicago, I sat on the steps at about 5 a.m. in agony and shaking and whatever, in shock. And I thought to myself, you have two choices here. You can go upstairs and wake up your mom and Marvin and say, I was raped and this is the person who did it, and get the lawyers and let's go to the police and let's go to court and let's drag it out and let's relive it again and again and again. And you can get him and you can punish him and this and that. Or you can say, I'm never going to think about this again. I'm never going to discuss it with anybody. I'm never going to tell anyone. I'm not even going to let my own self acknowledge it again, because if I let this person infect me, he will have won and I will have been a victim. And I don't want it to spoil my life. And I don't want it to spoil my sex life. And I don't want it to spoil my relationship with men in the future. And I don't want to be scared. And I don't want to, if I keep acknowledging this bad thing, then it's bringing it to the surface again and again. So I made a decision to shut it down. And I did really, really, really effectively. Yeah, I mean, I'm not alone. There's millions and millions of women and men who have been raped. This is not, and like I say, everybody deals with it in a different way. This was my way of dealing with it. And I'm here and I'm good and I'm strong. And I learned from that as well, I mean, it's a shame that it happened, but you can only learn from something and move on. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. Well, Gladys is the daughter of my other pug, Pixie. And so I've always had pugs since I was an adult, since I was about 26. And the first pug we had, I had it with Nigel Kennedy, who was my then partner. And we had a boy pug called Satchmo, who is in heaven. But anyway, long down the line, sorry, honey, I had Pixie, and then Pixie got pregnant with Gladys. And Pixie had 5 babies, and 3 of them lived. And the night before Pixie gave birth, I wished that the first one out was going to be black and was going to be a girl. And if it was, her name was Gladys. Pixie's fawn colored, and the first one out was a black girl. But I delivered Gladys myself. So I was the first thing that she, saw or smelled or whatever, me and Pixie. And so we're very close. I'm super connected to this animal. And her job is to look after me, not me looking after her. A day does not go by, rarely goes by, that I don't play it. It's my writing guitar. I write everything on it. And it's just like inexpensive, humble, and just, I just love it. I can't go without playing it. Like I feel sick if I'm not near it. Oh, well, what happened was I really was resistant to playing the guitar again. In fact, I never thought I would. And, but I'm a person who's really spiritual, and I believe in signs. And over the 15 years where I wasn't playing, I was really working on my spirituality, and I was really working on understanding stuff and being open to stuff. And so 3 things happened. First, my husband said to me, I think you ought to play guitar again. You're such a good songwriter. It's a shame that you're not doing this. And I said, oh, fuck off. I said, there's no way I'm ever doing that again. Then within the same period of a week and a half or 2 weeks, I ran into an old producer, Craig Leon, who produced not only Adult Net and The Fall, but Blondie and the Ramones. I mean, he's a super respectful guy. I love him. And he was like, Brix, you ought to play guitar again. And I'm like, well, it's 2 times. And then Lizzie Walker, who's the fiancée of Andy Weatherall, said, you really should play guitar again, Brix, and you should write a book. So I was like, oh, that's 3 at once. So I thought, I better listen to this. It's a sign. So I took a guitar out of the closet and I sat down when no one was home because I didn't know what would come out. And only the dogs were there. They're my constant audience. And I started playing and I started singing. And pretty much, it was the weird, this is really weird. It was, I pretty much started weeping straight away because so much had been built up. And it was like I had a bag of songs hanging in the ether above my head. And it was actually the book that started it, because writing the book seemed to open up the channel to the source of inspiration, because writing that book probably saved my life, I think. But anyway, doing that opened up the same connection I have to music. And I started playing and singing, and I was rusty, but it was still good. And the voice that came out of me was a different voice altogether. It was the free voice, It was like I had grown wings, and all the years that I'd lived and all the things that I'd endured came out. And I could not get through a song without weeping. It took me about a month or maybe 6 weeks before I could get through a song. And it was incredible, and I realized there'd been a piece of my soul missing. I only brought one outfit today, which is an outfit that I wore in the 80s in the fall, designed by Body Map. Body Map was so fab. It was the time of Curious Orange. Body Map is an amazing British designers in the 80s called David Hola and Stevie Stewart. They're still designing and working today. They're just brilliant. David Hola was the then boyfriend of Michael Clark, the ballet dancer. And it was all the taboo years, the time of Curious Orange, the ballet. And so this is my Body Map outfit. And it's in 2 pieces. The top is kind of long, and it kind of comes down over your hips. It would be really scary if I put this on now. And the trousers are really cute. So this is the front, and then on the back they have this fish fin all the way down. That was a kind of a Body Map classic thing, little fins. Anyway, so that's what I used to wear on stage.